Welcome everybody to our basic Google Sheets talk. No, that's not what I meant to do. Great. We'll have lots of time for questions and don't want folks to be shy. So the agenda here, so I'm Heather. We've got Annika and Nicole who are presenting with me. We're going to cover these topics, these basic topics, with plenty of time to ask questions. So if you would like to ask a question, please put it in the chat or raise your hand. I'll be monitoring that to make sure your questions are answered. We are intending to do a more advanced topics talk in May that's been scheduled. So if you have not answered our survey about what to include in the advanced topics, please do. We'll send it out again. That will help us decide what content to include. So first, let's see. Did we get to the next? Okay, so first, how to get to Drive. You can see if I can shift my sharing here and change that. Share. Oh, it's a mess, but that's okay. No. Okay, so you can actually go right from your inbox or calendar by clicking on the little app launcher, which is this grid. Okay, so it's not letting me do it. That's great.
You gotta click OK on your.
Okay, yep. Okay, great. And then picking the Drive icon. You can move these icons around. So you can kind of put all the ones you prefer to be at the top. You can put them in alphabetical order, whatever way you like, but it's this funky triangular multicolored icon. And now that brings you to this Drive menu here. You can you can create a sheet in My Drive by clicking the New button or using the My Drive pull down or right-clicking Drive, My Drive. We'll talk about shared drives in a minute. If you click New, you'll see this Google Sheets icon. And just click that. You've got Google Sheet at the root level of your My Drive space, and only you have access to it. Just a moment here, you can see that. First of all, best practice, give it a name right off the bat. Right, just so we have that, and then you can click Share to confirm that you're the only one with access. In order to share this out, you can pick people. You can see a bunch of my regular favorites listed right there. You'll see here, you can also pick anybody at the University of Minnesota Twin Cities campus or anyone with the link. So those are some general sharing settings. You can do a very similar thing in in shared drives. Let's go back here. Go to shared drives. Best practice is go to the shared drive that you want to make the sheet in, because right now you can't. You might be able to. If you click New, it's going to say a new shared drive. It's not the same New button as in My Drive. But if I were to go to CCAPS Information Technology here, which is a shared drive to which I have access, Pick new, Google Sheets. Now this, we'll test again, we'll do. Okay, so once I give it a title, I can click share. Oh, did it do it in my drive anyhow? Because it says private only to me? No. See, okay. Here's the difference between my drive and shared drive. My drive is private only to me unless I put it in a folder that has sharing settings on it already. A shared drive is shared with a team. So a team of people own it. I don't own it. So that's a difference. But you can see I can do the same things here. Same group of people, though I can of course type in, pick anybody. So you can see my Chris Johnson here at the bottom if I wish to do that. Okay, and you see the same options here. Perhaps the most important thing to know is that, and I've put pictures in the slides, we've just demonstrated all of those. But the most important thing to know is when you move a sheet around into different places, you change the permissions on that sheet. Now I'm seeing a bunch of somebody's texting me a lot, so I'm sorry for any notifications going on, but my next step is to pass this over to Annika to talk about things inside of different sheets. So I'm going to stop sharing. Annika will share. Oh, I guess I didn't have to do that, but go for it,
Right.
Annika. Thank you.
Yeah, can everyone see a spreadsheet right now?
Yes.
Okay, so we're just going to kind of start at the very beginning. You've been given a spreadsheet, it's got data in it, and for the purposes of going through an example, we'll say that I have been given the task that I need to find how much tuition money we got from inter-college program students each semester this year. So I've got this spreadsheet. It's a pretty big one. There's a lot of information in here. And you can see as I scroll down, I've lost my headers up at the top. So one of the first things that I do when I get a spreadsheet of information is I freeze the top row. And you can do that by going to View, Freeze, and you have a lot of options. You can freeze 1 or 2 rows, or you can click on a row. So row 25. And I could freeze up to row 25 if that made sense, but that doesn't. So I'm just going to freeze 1 row. You'll see that you can also freeze columns. So if you had something meaningful in the first column, you could also freeze that so that when you scrolled sideways, that column would stay on the left-hand side. So now I can scroll up and down and I don't lose my headers. Sort of the first step to navigating your data. So my first question is there any data in here on inter-college program students? I don't know. So I'm going to use a search function to find that out. So under Edit, there's a Find and Replace option. You can also use Control F as a shortcut, but I'm just going to put enter to see if I can find inter-college. Click on Find. Oops, I have just a so you can see here I had just picked a specific range and I don't want to do that. So we'll say this sheet, find, and I can see there is some data in here. I can see there's some records with inter-college programs. So that's great. That's a search function. You can also, if you press Control F, get a search bar up in the upper right-hand corner and do the same thing. And here it tells me there's 70, oops, it keeps counting, how many records are found with that value in it. So if I want to just look at inter-college program students, I'm going to want to filter this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this little filter funnel icon, and these little upside down pyramids appear in my header row. And if I'm looking for just inter-college students, I'll filter the student plan. So I click on that upside down pyramid and it gives me some sorting options. I want to filter by values if I'm looking for the inter-college program. So I'm going to clear out what's selected and again, search for inter-college program and select that. Once I press OK, the only things that are displayed are the inter-college program records. If you look at the row numbers here, it starts at 624, goes to 2,357. And you can see there's not that many rows actually here. But what that means is that data is still there. It's still on the page. They're just hidden. And that will come into play later. Then let's say I wanted to sort on term. I can simply go to that filter icon and sort A to Z. So I'm getting fall and then spring, or the opposite direction. If I wanted to do a more complex sort, I would select the whole sheet by clicking on this box in the upper left-hand corner, and then go to Data, Sort Range, and there's an advanced range sorting options there. And this is where you can do a complex sort by saying, I have a header row, and I want to sort by term first. And then after that, I want to sort by the CRN of the class, so the class number. And then I've got first everything sorted by term, and then after that, sorted by the course number. And that can apply to, can have tertiary sorts, and you can go as far as you need to with that. So if I want to work on the spring and fall data on separate tabs, I can create a new tab down here by clicking on this plus sign, and it will automatically give me a numbered sheet. To rename, you can either double click and you get sort of this renaming highlight, or escape from that. Well, you can right click and a menu will come up, or you can click on this little triangle and a menu will come up and rename. So I'm going to rename this one fall. And then you can duplicate the tab also. That's an option. So I'm going to duplicate this and rename it spring. And if I accidentally duplicate too many times, not a problem. You can also delete tabs from the same menu. It'll ask you if you want to. Are you absolutely sure? Yes. And then I can copy paste the fall data to the fall tab. Grab the headers. And I can grab the spring data onto the spring tab. Okay. So you can also move tabs around. If I wanted to have the tuition data, which is all of the tuition data, the original data at the back, I can just click and drag, move those around. If I wanted to hide this original tab because it's my original data, I don't want anyone to mess around with it, you can right click or use that drop down menu, and there's an option to hide the sheet. So it will disappear from down here, but it still exists. So if at some point I wanted to get back to that original data, I'd go up to View, and there's an option of hidden sheets. It will show everything that's hidden. Select what you want to appear, and it comes back again. So this is, we're sort of ready to do some summing once we get to the functions part of our presentation. But for now, I'm going to stop sharing and pass it over to Nicole.
Thanks.
Talk about entering data into a spreadsheet.
Yes, so I'm going to share my screen with you and talk about some best practices when putting data into an existing spreadsheet. So can you all see this here?
Yes. Yep.
All right, so this is really just a subset of some non-credit course data. So it might look familiar to some of you, very foreign to others. So this is a sheet that's used to house all the courses, and throughout the life cycle of a fiscal year, you might need to add another course to this sheet. And so to do that, you'd want to start at the bottom. And I'll show you why in just a second. So we'll just kind of add a new one here. Just pretend like it's another section of the one that's right above. And so if you notice when I added that, some things here popped in on their own. Let's say this class is actually starting before this one. So we'll use, I don't really know 2021 dates, so we'll use April 10 and 11. So let's say we were like wanting to go up here to insert that same thing. Starts on August 10th. So, you know, there is an option, I suppose you could go put this up here. And so if I do that, what you're gonna see, none of that other data that you just saw has come in now. So it would basically breaks what you can't see in the spreadsheet. So best practice is to add your course at the bottom, and then to get it in order, you would then you can sort these. And that's kind of what Annika covered, was that sorting. So it'll go right up there. So just always entered it at the bottom. The next topic that I'm going to cover is data validation. And so if you see this sheet's got a few different drop downs here, a couple look different. This is actually the newer version that Google Sheets has for data validation. This was done in an older version, so the formatting didn't quite carry over, but they operate the same. So we use data validation when we want to kind of force values into a column. So for this column, we only want it to say confirmed, hold, pending, or sent. Those were defined, you know, within a team, and that's why they're like that. So in order to do that, we insert what's called data validation. So to do that, you would go to wherever you want to put that validation. You could right click. There's this option that says data validation. So you're going to see that this already has it. And so if you click on that, you can see that the criteria, we want it to be a drop down. These are the values of the drop down that we're setting. You could always add another one. So let's say later on you decide you want another one. You can name it whatever you want. That will update it for the whole list. So if I hit done there, that weird value is going to pop up that I just typed. Probably not what you really want, but you can do that. And so let's say someone went rogue and they totally entered that on their own and no one agreed to it. Let's go ahead and remove that value. You can do the same here, just remove value. For more complex lists, like this instructor, like you might have a large list of instructors and you wouldn't want to hand type those. This list is from a range. So I actually have this tab that says instructor list. And so these are all the instructors I want to show up in my list. So if we go back here and we look at this here, it's a drop down from a range. So you get a bunch of options for what this validation is going to be. You can do it to force it to be a valid date, greater than a number, equal to a number. You kind of decide depending on what you're doing, what type of data validation you want to use. But from a range, and then you call out the sheet and the range, and it'll bring in what you tell it to bring in. So that's data validation. And then I'm going to cover kind of some basic copy and pasting data into this sheet. And so I've got some sample data here. Let's say you've staged this data somewhere else, you're working on it, it wasn't ready to go on the real live document yet. Now it is. So we're going to take this and just straight copy it and then paste it over here. And so when I pasted this, you notice you get kind of some weird formatting here. Like, what is this? So in order to change that, we can go up, highlight the cells that are wrong, go up to format, and there's this number. So we're going to make it this special one here. And now you see it's changed all those funky looking numbers into real legible dates like we want it. Same with this column here. I'll just talk a little bit more about formatting. Like, you can change this to be like, let's say you don't want all the dollar signs there and you just want it to be a straight number, you can make it a number. Or if you see mixed formatting, you want it to be all the same formatting, you can highlight the entire column, go back into there, number, and pick what you'd like it to be. You could do it rounded if you want, no zeros, if that works for your data. So that is all for me on that part, and then I'll pass it back to Annika to cover some basic functions.
All right. So we're going to go back to what we were looking at before. So there's sort of two kinds of things that can be in a cell in a spreadsheet. You can have a value. We keep using the word value, and what we're referring to is just there's content in the cell that it is what it is. If you click on a cell, there's 92687 here. If you go up to this function bar at the top, that is the value that is in that cell. It is what it is what it is. If you copy and paste it, that's what will appear. A function is not set, it is calculating its value from other things. So if I go down here to this cell that says total, it doesn't say 1 million up here. It has a bunch of stuff that starts with an equal sign. If you click on a cell that has that, it means there's a function there. It's not a set value. I'm going to quick go over parts of a function. Every function starts with an equal sign. That just means this is a function in this cell. And then it's followed by generally an all caps word. It's not necessary. If you type it in lowercase, it will still work, but that is the name of the function. So you're saying this is a function and this is the function I want you to do. And then it's followed by some parentheses that has values that are comma separated. And that's just basically information that Sheets needs in order to perform the function. And so one of the most simple ones, so here's what it would look like altogether: equal sign, function name, and then within parentheses, all the information needed to do that function. And there are pop-up help functions that I'm going to show you now, but we're going to look at one of the easiest ones, which is sum, which basically just means to add things together. And that's what is in this total right here. So sum. If I go up here to the function bar, if I put my cursor in sum, you'll see this little question mark pop up, and that is the formula help. So you can click on that and a pop-up box will show up here that shows you information about that function. So this is a generalized example of that function. And then there's a specific example that gives you values that look like real data and gives you information about what it does. So this returns a sum of the series of numbers or cells. And value 1 here, it explains, sorry, it keeps shutting down. Value 1 is the first number arranged that you're going to add together, and then there's a comma, and then there's the next thing you're going to add. So if I come to this example, this orange value right here is the range of values in column J. If I wanted to add also this extra tuition in this cell, I would add a comma and put in value 2. I can just do that by clicking on the cell, and it will say J 2,598. So I'm summing together everything that's in this range plus what's in this cell. Great. Now I want to show you a word of warning here. This is that original data tab that we have filtered. So this is filtered on student plan. If you take a look at this number, it is 1,300,000 something. And if you look at all these numbers, the biggest one is 2,000 something. This wouldn't all add up to 1 million. And what's happening is that functions generally will include hidden data. So because this is a filtered page, it is summing together everything. So if I wanted to just sum these values, I'd need to go copy this sum function, go to fall, add it there, and then I'm going to have to re-select what I want to add. And then you get an accurate sum. So one more thing I wanted to show you about help is if the information you get here is not enough, you can click on learn more and you'll get a whole bunch more information pop up on the side about this function. Being a little pokey right now. And there are hundreds and hundreds of functions that you can use. So if you need to do something and you Google what function should I use in Google Sheets, you might find an answer. You can use these in-sheet help functions to help you use that. So that is all I have on the basics of functions. So I'm going to pass it back to Nicole to show you a few more functions that are useful.
Yeah, thank you. So I've got a couple more functions that I'm going to share. The first one is called concatenate. So that's just a fancy word for put things together how you want to see them. So I made up two scenarios. Scenario one, you need to provide this course number, section, name, and instructor to whoever is asking you for it. So instead of, copy and pasting a lot and trying to reformat it in an email or whatever, you can write a formula to create that set of data for you. So I did an example of like, this is what we want it to look like. Let's go ahead and try to use concatenate to do that. So you can see this already starts popping up. It wants to tell me, it thinks it knows what I'm doing. So I'm going to use concatenate. We don't want to use, there's a shorter version, concat. In G Sheets specifically, concat will only take 2 values. And we have more than 2 values that we need to put together. So concatenate is one we want to use. The first thing we want is this designator and course numbers. We're going to click on that. And then we also want the section number. Each one is separated by a comma. We want the course title, the instructor. And so I'm just going to do this so you can see what this is going to look like. I'm not going to autofill that. So if you notice, I did that, but now there's no spaces. So it doesn't look exactly like we want it to. So with concatenate, you have to tell it everything that you want. So I want a dash in here after that first one. I'm going to have to tell it I want a dash there. So now you can kind of see up here, it's starting to build it for you. So you can see a little bit of a preview of what it's going to look like. So we also know I want a space after it, so we can read it. So we're going to add a space. So you can see that's working. It looks like I wanted a space and a dash after the actual course name. So I'm going to put that in there. And then now we've got something legible, and you can take this and either double click it and it'll automatically pop it down, or you can take it and you can drag the formula down. They do the exact same thing. So another example of concatenate would be like if you're trying to make sentences out of stuff for whatever reason. I've seen this a lot, maybe not with this type of data, but you can make it say whatever you want. So this fake sentence here is our instructor, Larry Morgan, will be teaching Introduction to Human Resources Practices. So that's taking the instructor name and the course that they're teaching. So you just do the same concatenate formula. Concatenate, and then you have to type the words that you want first. So I'm typing our instructor, comma, and space. Everything matters here. This is really the business name, but there's the instructor name. We need another comma in the space. And then we're is teaching space. And then the course name. I got all that. And also it will sometimes unknowingly ask you this, and sometimes it's nice, but a suggested autofill, it's like, do you actually want to do this to all of them? I'll say yes. So that's a different way versus dragging it down. So now we have that. So this next one is similar to concatenate, but it's called join. And so join is used when you just have a set of values that's going to be separated by the same delimiter. So if they're all going to be separated by a space, if they're all going to be separated by a dash, you can use join. For other things, you're going to want to use concatenate, or it will not work. So here's the example for this one, is that we want this and this separated by a dash. So instead of writing concatenate, I'll write join. I'm going to take it calls for the delimiter first, so tell it what you're gonna join it by. In this case, it's a dash. And then it wants to know what you're gonna join. And I want to join those. And so now we have that. So another one, I feel like I've seen this a lot in the non-credit side and getting lists of names from people from various forms, but people don't always capitalize their names. And we want to provide it in a nice list. So there's actually a formula that you can write for capitalizing each word, and it's called proper. And so the proper formula will take this and it'll turn it into this. So if I have this list of names, you can see they're kind of mixed. Some are all caps, some are weirdly mixed case, etc. We just use equal sign again, the word proper. We click on the list given, close it, and then it writes that all the way down. So we went from this to this without having to try to double click in there and manually correct all of these entries. Saves a ton of time. And then the last one that I'm going to demo here is splitting text to columns. And so the scenario here is you've been given a list of names, they're combined, but you need to sort these in alphabetical order by last name. And they're just one cell right now. So you can take this, highlight it, go to data, and there's a pre-built function called split text to columns. So you can click on that. It'll ask you, what are they separated by? That's what the separator is. These are all by a space. And now you have first name, last name. And so typically when I did this in real life, I would just put like first, last, and then you can sort them.
Yep. So real quick, I want to bring up an item in the chat here that is worth knowing for proper. It does undo mid-word capitalization like McDonald, and that is worth knowing.
That's definitely worth knowing. And yeah, it would be a limitation of the formula for
Mhm.
sure. Good points. Okay, so that's it for the formulas. I did want to mention just one thing about copy and pasting data with formulas. So let's go back to this original sheet, for example. Like, let's say we just want to take, for whatever reason, we just want this top chunk and we want to take it and put it in a whole new sheet. And so I'm just taking that, I'm going to paste this into a new sheet. And now this has happened. So what happens when you copy and paste is it's reading formulas from the sheet, especially if there's formulas in there that reference other cells that don't exist or other sheets that don't exist in this new workbook that you just pasted into. So just be careful when you're copy and pasting. If you did actually have to do this in real life, you could do a copy and paste values, which will actually take out the formulas, but will leave and retain the values that the formula had created in its original source. So if I just repaste over that using copy and paste values, it kept mostly everything intact. One thing that's showing as an error is because this list was data validation. And the list that I was pulling from doesn't actually exist in this sheet, but these are still the values. So you can always choose to ignore that, remove the data validation. So if that annoyed you, which it would annoy me, that's what I would do. And that is it.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to share our last bit here. We do have a whole bunch of resources that we have in a sheet that we'll send to you afterwards that goes through explaining all of this information. So you'll have it as a helper. I just want to ask next. Come on. Are there specific questions? Anything somebody wants to see again or hasn't seen yet that they'd like to see that we could put something together or give us some information about what you'd like to see in a subsequent session? So please don't be shy. No.
All right, I'll be brave and ask a question.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So first of all, thank you so much for holding this. It's really appreciated. So I will say one thing that I've had happen with me is you're trying to build a pre-existing Google Sheet, and this feels very elementary. I don't know. But it's like when you Control C and then you Control V into an existing sheet. I've only had it happen every once in a while, but it's like all of a sudden, like if I have something down in row 35, that was like instructions on something, but then I'm copying and pasting a whole bunch of pre-existing information into that sheet. Like if you're following me, sometimes they'll remove whatever was in row 35, and I don't know what I did wrong.
Right. It could be that you were copying a bunch of blank cells beneath what you had in your pre-existing sheet, and those blank cells are overwriting because it's thinking that you're wanting those things to be blank. So is this when you select, do you select the cells or do you select the columns to copy and then paste?
Yeah, I select the cells and the rows. So like
Okay.
I just kind of, I don't know, guesstimate, I guess, how many rows I need to copy or paste over, if that makes
Right.
sense.
Yep.
So okay.
Yeah. So I think probably the things that I can think of that would be happening is that you have so many rows that the actual data overwrites what you had, because it's not inserting it, it's pasting in place over it.
Okay.
Or that you have unknowingly selected the columns rather than the specific cells, and it's copying all the blank cells at the bottom of your sheet and overwriting everything with that. Those are the two things I can think of that might be happening.
Okay, so then is there a proper method that, like, if you're just trying to copy like first and last names and like a pre-existing set of data, but then you're copying into an existing spreadsheet and you don't want that information to disappear, like whatever information exists?
So often this is an instance where if you don't have functions in your sheet like Nicole had in hers, you could add rows in the middle of your sheet. So
Okay.
Nicole, do you want to?
I was going to go on a different.
Okay.
I've seen a lot of sheets that do house like notes at the bottom, right? Like a lot of people are doing that way to store that information. And overall, I would say best practice is just don't put them at the bottom. I mean, you could have them at the top or just really on a separate tab or in a separate document that's embedded or something like that, because I can't tell you how many times that'll get wiped out, you know, and it's only a matter of time before someone doesn't notice, and you can always get it back, but it's probably easier to keep it somewhere else.
Okay, yeah, no, that makes sense. Like, yeah, I'm thinking about attendance list in my instance.
Sure.
I'm like thinking about instructions that we're trying to give to FCs to make it easier for them to take their attendance. But now I'm thinking, oh yeah, I could have that information living in a separate sheet that they can reference and have that sheet clearly labeled instructions or something.
Yeah.
So.
You can also insert comments and notes into cells. Have you ever done that?
Yes, yeah. Okay. I've definitely done that quite a few times. But you know, of course, we run into that situation where, you know, somebody or even me, I'm copying and pasting information, and all that information is erased until I press undo, and then everything's back. But
right.
Cool.
Yeah,
Thank
I'd
you.
say the best practice is having instructions in a separate sheet.
Got it. Got it. Thank you so much.
And then Vivian's asked here, do you have to include an @ name when replying to a comment, or is that optional?
That's a good question.
It's so when you reply, it'll reply to the person who wrote it, but if there are other people included, I do not believe it copies them. So you'd have to do the @ name for additional people who did not originate the comment.
Thank you, Nicole.
Others had a good answer. I don't know.
Because
Yeah.
sometimes I've seen replies with name, sometimes without, and so what's the difference?
Yep.
Yeah, and you can do both. Like it won't break it if you do it with it. And
Mhm,
it's probably safe to do it with it if you're not sure.
mhm. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, well, I'm gonna put up a quick, actually, maybe Nicole, I think you might need to do the poll
Oh,
because
sure.
you can see it. So we're gonna put up a quick poll about some future potential topics for the more advanced session. And when we say more advanced session, it's really not
More advanced
wildly
than
more
this.
advanced. It's more advanced than this. Yeah.
I would say the poll that we have, Heather, is for
Yes,
the
please.
feedback.
Yeah, let's do the poll, and then we are gonna also give you the poll is for feedback on this session, sorry, and then we'll send you the survey for the more advanced topics, although Nicole's also shared it in the chat. And that should give you words in English, but also function names. So if, for instance, you want to see more information about pivot tables, you can quickly find the word pivot tables and pick that. If you have no idea what a pivot table is, or like that's not communicative to you, we also have a description of it that you might find interesting. So you can find us either using English or function words. And we will be sending the survey about the advanced session on to other people who haven't been here, who might have said, oh, I don't think I need this set of topics, but might still find other stuff useful. And then let's see if we can get some feedback on this particular session. So we've got what was the topic useful, and was the session length appropriate?
And we can't see what you're answering, so feel free to click any of
Yes,
these.
it's anonymous, please.
Don't feel bad if you didn't like it.
Yeah, but also do give us some more information in the chat about what you would like to see covered.
Matt's got a question.
I do.
Yeah, you do. Go for
I
it, man.
do. All right. So filters, you can pre-create them. And how does that translate across sharing? So when someone else, if I pull up a filter and I'm using the data and it's filtered in a particular way, and someone else comes into that exact same sheet, do they see the filter enabled, or do they just see the data set? Is that, and does that question make sense?
Filter view. So I've created a filter view. And we'll say it's called Matt's view. Okay. And then if I go up to data, well, first close the view. Okay, then I go up to data, filter views. So your view is here. There is a setting, I believe. There's somewhere where it's just for you, or filter view options, rename, update range deletes. All right, well, let's try this. I'm going to share this with you, Matt.
All right.
And send it to you, and we'll find out together what happens. All right, so I've created this view. I'm pretty sure you will be able to select that view.
All right.
And then I'm going to stop sharing. I don't know if you're able to share or not, but
Maybe we'll find out.
or if you even want to. I've seen somewhere where you can set it to be only your view or somebody else's view, but that might be in Excel.
And no, in Sheets it does it too. Like
All right, it
oftentimes
is.
I couldn't get
Mhm.
mine to do it, but it'll ask like, do you want to filter this for you or everyone? And you can click you, and then it automatically pops it into that option that you went to, Annika, to
Mhm.
Mhm.
your filter view.
Mhm.
We use
No.
them in PDP a lot.
So now, okay, it works. The view is there. I'm enabled it. I'm going to just close out. What happens when you go back in?
When I go back in,
Will the view
Yes.
be enabled? Will the filter be enabled or not?
I'm pretty sure when you go back in, so I can share again. I've exited out of it. Yeah,
Thank
no,
you.
this is what this is for. It's sort of
Mhm.
open lab time.
Mhm.
So if I go back into it, I'm pretty sure it goes into a regular view without any of the saved views.
Filter,
Mhm.
okay.
And if I
Okay.
wanted to see one of those filters, I go to data. Ooh, it's taken a while.
Mhm.
All right.
You
Well,
can do that.
It'll get there.
Go to data, filter views,
all right.
and
Oh,
select it.
All right, so it doesn't by default, it'll remove the filter. Is there, I'm gonna next
So-
question, is there a way to share the filter? So if I create a filter and I want to share this exact way that I
Yeah.
filter this with others,
Mhm.
how you should just share that URL straight up like that?
I'm thinking this FVID might be a filter view ID. So I'm going to put this in chat, and anyone who wants to click on it. Wait, hold on. Let me make sure everyone at the U of M can open this.
It does open in the filter view.
Yeah, so I think that FVID at the end of the
Yes.
URL.
Mhm.
Got it.
Yep, so anyone can see this.
Yep.
Cool. Got it.
And I did not know that you could do that.
Yeah. So
That's
if you
nice.
just copy the URL, it includes the filter view ID in it.
Mhm. Cool.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good question.
Yeah, and any others? You see, we've kind of opened this up for whatever you want to throw in our direction. If we don't have time to do it now, we can connect up with you separately. Also, we can always do that. You can always send us a question. We can try to help you out.
I have another fun function I could share. Well, I
Sure.
don't know how fun it is, but I find it useful.
Okay.
If I wanted to know what are all the student plans that we got tuition from, I can do equals unique and then select that column.
Mhm.
Oops, sorry, I'm gonna delete these, I think. There we go. And then it will just give you a list of all the unique values in that column.
That's nice.
That's one of my favorites.
Can I ask for a follow-up on that, Annika?
Yeah. Yeah.
How about a total number of unique values? I know there's how to do it in Excel, but I don't know how to, I've never done it in Sheets.
So what I think might do, it might be a count distinct. So count D, or count D count, right? Oop, not count F, sorry. D count. Count values from a table like range. So see how there's maybe a 20 there. See if that comes up with wrong number of arguments. Expected 3 arguments. Okay, so what's the third argument?
This is great.
Criteria. And so what does it mean by criteria? An array or range containing more criteria to filter the database value by.
I've
This
never.
doesn't, yeah, this doesn't seem to be a count distinct. The other thing I was going to try was equals count unique. So this is, you can nest things. Yeah.
Mhm.
So this might help.
Thanks, man.
Said 0. Looks like that didn't work either. But this is what we do is we Google.
We're like, what else?
Yeah. Yeah. So
It's good to
Yeah.
know that I'm not the only one.
You are not.
We would know you're not. And we use that little help thing a lot.
mhm.
Often.
Count unique.
I was wondering if there was
Oh,
Oh, it's one long word. Mhm.
yeah. Great.
a nice.
So it's
Yes.
not nested, it's just a different function.
Nice.
Count unique.
Yeah.
18. There you go.
Cool. And yeah,
So Linda, does that help? Because Linda said typically in Excel you can hover over a range and it will show some average count. So in some cases, yes, you can see it in the bottom right. Annika, would you bring your
Oh, yeah, I can share
sheet up again?
So if I were to select maybe
I think a
so.
single screen.
This is, I don't know what that's summing. If I do this, it will sum
And it'll
everything. You
And
get the
then
average, the
average,
minimum, the
min,
max.
max. Yep, so there's some little functions there. Thank you, good. So I think for, Nicole, do you want to tell us some information about the poll?
Oh, as far as the results of this poll?
Yeah. Folks can also give us feedback, actually, that's more for us than the survey. But please give us any other feedback you'd like. Also, we were thinking about scheduling kind of some optional open lab where we do this kind of thing that we did at the end, which was just show up and ask a question and maybe bring us your data so we can see it kind of from the specific example that you have that you want to get some help with. So if you think that would be useful to you, you can, when we send you this survey, there's definitely a space for other, and you can let us know you'd like some open lab time. I see open lab would be awesome. Okay, great. So we'll work out how to do some of that. And I think that you'll be interested to see some of these other functions that we go into where we're comparing some of the advanced topics are, taking a set of values and comparing them to another set of values, bringing information from one sheet into another sheet and so on. So but if anything comes up, you have an idea for another topic, please don't be shy, just send it to CCAPS IT. Thank you so much for your time, and we will be sending this recording out as well as the resource sheet when we give a prompt for the next survey. So whether you come to the advanced topics or you can't, or you want to connect to an open lab, just the door's open. Please shout out. We're here for you guys and here to help out. So thank you very much for your time today, and good luck with your meeting. I hope after lunch, I hope you get to take a break and have a little time to relax and see some of the prettiness that is outside your window.
It's nice.
Take care, everybody. Thank you.
Bye. No, Heather left too. I was like, do we leave?
Oh, I was just gonna hang out and, I don't know. I think it
Well,
went
I was gonna tell you
all
the
right.
feedback. She might come back.
Yeah,
I can stop recording.
yeah.